everyone and welcome. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about several structures that you can use to express possession in Romanian. This is one of those language aspects that is often confusing to non-native speakers because in Romanian, possession is not always expressed explicitly. In fact, Romanian distinguishes between several degrees of focus what possession is concerned, meaning that the relationship between the possessor and the possessed object can be conveyed starting from a point where possession is expressed very clearly through explicit means, all the way down to a point where possession is practically understood from the context. And I'm going to go through all of these stages and talk about 4 common ways of expressing possession in Romanian. So, let's begin. The first way of expressing possession in Romanian, and probably the most intuitive to non-native speakers, is using possessive adjectives, such as meu, tău, său, lui, ei, nostru, vostru, lor. As a side note, these are the masculine/neuter singular forms of the possessive adjective. In Romanian, the possessive adjective refers to the possessor and it changes its form depending on the gender, number, and case of the possessed object. And I'm going to show you some examples so that you can see how its form changes depending on the noun it accompanies. Fratele meu, sora mea, frații mei, surorile mele. So yeah, possessive adjectives have many forms and I'm not gonna list them all here, but if you're interested in learning them, you can basically find them in any grammar book, including mine. Anyways, this way of expressing possession is very similar to how possession is expressed in English, for instance. In Romanian, this type of possession is also known as strong possession. And we do not use this type of possession in all the situations that it is normally used in English. In Romanian, we often use it in prepositional structures. For example, după părerea mea, pentru prietenul tău, în țara noastră, cu ajutorul vostru. Possessive adjectives also appear in sentences in which the possessed object constitutes the subject of the sentence. For example, cartea mea este pe masă. However, sentences in which the possessed object represents the direct object of the sentence do not necessarily use possessive adjectives. So, a sentence like caut cartea mea is rather rarely used. Sure, it can appear in this form, but only if there's some sort of contrast that needs to be emphasized. For example, caut cartea mea, nu pe a ta. Instead, what Romanians usually use in this particular situation is a so-called possessive dative, and this leads us to the next type of possession. Another way of expressing possession in Romanian is using reflexive dative pronouns. So a sentence like îmi caut cartea also translates as I'm looking for my book, but this is the variant that Romanians will naturally go for when the possessed object is the direct object of the sentence. This type of possession is also known as weak possession, and another way of expressing it is using constructions with the accusative, also referred to as possessive accusative. For instance, when we talk about aches, in Romanian we use accusative pronouns and not possessive adjectives. So we say mă doare capul and not capul meu doare. The third way of expressing possession in Romanian is using local prepositions with accusative pronouns. For example, instead of saying în casa noastră, you can also use la noi în casă. Or instead of din echipa voastră, you can use de la voi din echipă. This is also known as diverged possession. I hope I'm translating that right. And it is often used in colloquial speech. And the fourth way of expressing possession in Romanian, which is also the last kind of possession I'm going to talk about in this video is the implicit possession. For example, in a sentence like încântat de cunoștință or încântată de cunoștință, the person talking to someone whom they've just met are talking about making that particular person's acquaintance and not somebody else's. So possession is practically understood from the context. Alrighty, that's about it for now. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video and that you've learned something new. As always, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, if you're interested in more practice on this topic, I've shared some goodies on my Patreon page and the link is in the description. Okay, I'll see you next time. Be happy!
Be happy. Ba, ba.